Hi. Thank you for come. Please, I'll do anything. Hi. Welcome to my tea party. Thank you for coming. Um, so, why did Giuseppe wander off to the promised land? Well, one thing's for certain. There was definitely, absolutely, inarguably, some kind of promise in the promised land that promised Giuseppe into heading into the private land. I'm not entirely sure what kind of promise it was, but let's imagine something real quick. Your name starts with a J. What promise do you want made to yourself? Well, obviously, you would want the promise to be made that your name would be something different, because having a name that starts with the letter J is basically just as bad as being a dictator, in my opinion. And I think a lot of other people would agree with me on that. But, so I'm pretty sure that's Giuseppe's main motivation in doing. I want to put on lipstick real quick. Hang on. Okay, that's better. So I do want to talk about real quick why I think having a name that starts with the letter J is such a terrible thing. Because you may be wondering to yourself, oh, how is that terrible? J is a great... Well, I can say one thing and one thing only. If you just listened to me instead of questioning me, then you would have known the answer by now. But you delayed it because you're disrespectful. But the real reason it's so bad is because, okay, so imagine you're a letter, right? And you go to Letterville as a refugee to escape Periodville, where there's a filter in Periodville to where everyone experiences cramps all the time. Not to be confused with menstrual periods, but it's just funny. It's a joke. Laugh. So they escape to Letter World, or Letterville, or whatever I said. And then imagine you see this J walking up. Okay. And the J, think of the J as like a hook, right? So the dot on the J is the eye, is the head. And then the rest of it is the hook. So imagine them walking up to you, walking in a very specific position, and doing this. Now, I think you know what I mean by that. Obviously, it would really, really impact your little toe the most. And then it would also impact your big toe a little bit, but not as much as the little toe. So you got to protect your feet around these J's, because they're not looking for a peaceful time. These J's are after you. They want to kill you. And they almost killed me. But I got away, and that's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing that matters. So another thing that's bad about J's is that, they just sound stupid. This is just a dumb word. J. Okay, that's like the stupidest, dumbest thing ever, okay? And third of all, okay, let's say that I'm really running out of ideas here. I walked up to a Jay, and I said, hey, Jay, you want to play some Crash Bandicoot? You know what Jay would say to me? No, I don't want to play Crash Bandicoot, because Crash Bandicoot is a good game. And I don't want to play good games. I only want to play games like this. So then we have a war against Crash Bandicoot and Plucky, just going at it. And do you think that makes me happy? Just talking to a J. Just walking up to a J on a regular theoretical day. And then to have them disrespect my games like that and have to put my games through warfare, I always win the war, but still, it's annoying. Furthermore, Jays are overall just not very nice people, and I just don't recommend that you hang out with them. So, I think these are the real reasons Jessepe went to the Promised Land, is to get rid of all these things. Because, I mean, having the letter J, I can imagine that's very painful for Jessepe. And maybe Jessepe deserves it. I don't know what kind of person he is. But point is, we need to discuss whether or not Jessepe got the promise he was promised at the Promised Land. What the truth is, Jessepe did not get the promise that he was promised at the Promised Land, because he went to the Promised Land, and then he went up to the king, and the king was sitting on his throne, and then tried to wake the king up, and he was still like, and then found out he's actually dead, even though he's snoring, but he's actually dead, he's not alive, so the king couldn't help out because he was dead. I don't know how the king maybe ate too many peanut butter jelly sandwiches. I mean, I can relate to that. But, well, it's more like peanut butter and syrup. But anyways, or like peanut butter and chocolate sauce. Anyways, I mean, the king really failed Jessepe, and Jessepe got down on his knees and he prayed to the gods of the Promised Land, and he said to the gods, oh wait, no, there aren't any gods in the Promised Land. Wait, no, okay, so he just stared up at the ceiling and he was like, ceiling, oh mighty great ceiling, please help me, ceiling, through this ordeal. I need to fulfill my promise of going to the Promised Land so I can get the promise that I was promised, which is changing my name to Alex. And then the ceiling spoke to Jessepe and said, Dude. You do not want to be an A, man. Trust me, dude, come over here, man. Come on. Listen, man, being an A is even worse than being a J. I know my teeth are yellow. I literally just brushed them, I swear. It's even worse because there's a pointy spot on the A. You know what that pointy spot can do. You know what that pointy... I mean, I don't know if you know what a Judas cradle is, but it's pretty much the same thing. So don't look that up if you don't know what it is, but don't become an A, Jessepe. And Jessepe looked up at the ceiling and he was like, oh no. Well, can I change my name to Betty? And the ceiling said, no. Are you sure? Yes. Okay. So then Jessepe walked on home, and then he ended up starving to death in the desert and died. So that's how Jessepe went to the Promised Land, and that's how Jessepe went to the Promised Land, and that's how Jessepe went to the Promised Land. That's how Jessepe went to the Promised Land. You don't think it's funny, do you? Yeah, because you don't think anything's funny, because you're a boring person. Fuck you.